Welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And me, Robbie.
And here we are with our spoiler-filled review of Curry Barker's Obsession.
Yes, not smile, as I said at the end of our
because
spoiler.
I filled your brain and I spent the whole episode smiling at you in the spoiler-free version.
Yes, you did.
It just
That's
filled your brain with it. That's what happened.
That's how we got there. Yes, so this is our spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you've accidentally hit this button, then this is our little reminder. We don't want to spoil the film for you. We do want you to hit that subscribe button and leave us a lovely review, though. It always helps.
Yes, so off you go and have a cat sandwich.
Yes.
There you go. You got a spoiler there. That's your fault. You shouldn't have stuck around.
Yes, there you go. Drive them away.
Be gone. There you go. Right, so Curry Barker's Obsession. So we obviously did a little sap in our spoiler-free episode of kind of some of the main ideas, kind of the simple structure of the story. You know, the One Wish Willow. You know, he's in love. He's a bit of a. I was about to use an inappropriate word there to describe it, because we never use that on this podcast.
No.
But the way that he acts, as I said, was quite placid. And he is like that with her. He's in love with this girl, and he is, Nikki.
Nikki.
Right? It is Nikki. Nikki, but he's not willing to kind of do anything about it. To the point of causing that he'd go to possession before he'd go to just being like, I like you kind of thing.
I'll cast a spell on her.
So we get the whole One Wish Willow, which is, fairly quickly established in the film. It doesn't take too long to build up to get kind of to that point in the film. Before we get to kind of the meat of the main concept within obviously the supernatural horror of it all. There's not too much to build up on that. He's got a group of friends. That's kind of all we really get in the first minutes or so. Is kind of we get that opening scene of that conversation between him and his mate. Of trying to talk about how he's going to talk to Nikki. And we get kind of a scene with all of them at the bar, and we get mainly just scenes of him being a bit of a sad sack.
Yeah, he can't.
Oh, his cat dies. Sorry,
his cat gets ripped cat, and
eating his dead mum's pills, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. But he can't quite muster the strength to ask Nikki out.
No.
So he does the most logical thing is he curses her.
Yes,
that's the way in which they do
it. To be fair, it might be the only way that he could get her.
Maybe.
Because you do kind of look at it straight away and go, yeah, she's probably too good for you.
It's the next stage of the manosphere. Is to start casting spells on women who don't want to be in a relationship,
forcing them to be into that. It's like the Wolfman episode we did recently, the Lacey Junior kind of thing. If you walk in, you can just own a woman. Apparently, in the 1940s, and nowadays you need to use supernatural means in order for that to happen. Because we no longer, as men, can just walk in and say we own you.
It's not the way it works anymore.
We find a different way now.
We need to do spells.
We need spells.
But I feel like it's up until this point, I wasn't quite in on it because, like I said, some of the kind of dialogue felt a little bit stilted when they went in to buy the One Wish Willow. That conversation was just a bit awkward and a bit weird. And I feel like when they were trying to kind of be a bit off kilter and be a bit funny, it fell a bit flat.
Yeah.
But then there were other times, like when it was, I don't know whether it was supposed to be a bit more serious or where the horror was supposed to ramp up a little bit, where I thought this is quite darkly funny.
Yeah. So once we have the One Wish Willow scene, after when he's driven Nikki home, and we get the kind of finally we're going to get that, and you've got the kind of the odd playfulness of having the One Wish Willow, this kind of branded, which again, before you know it, you're going to see this probably pop up in shops. It's just selling this merchandise of the One Wish Willow. Yeah. Someone's just literally going to get a box and put a stick in it and be like, there you go.
One Wish Willow.
One Wish Willow. But, it's got the kind of funniness of having the musical, that plays out of the box and things like that, and this odd kind of thing. But it is that kind of odd, we see Nikki go up to the door and we see him do that part, and then there's a lot of shots in this film which I like. I like the way, I like some of the shots that he does within this film.
Yeah.
The way that he has a lot of static camera, especially say here where you've got you see from one side of him breaking the one wish willow, and then it shoots to the other side.
Yeah.
And you then see her in the door. If you look in the background, you can see her suddenly go completely rigid, completely still, and then it takes a while for him to realise that she is still just stood there completely still. And it uses a lot of lighting in different ways here. There's a lot of dark lighting, especially around Nikki, like facially, as if we're trying to obscure what her face looks like, and her eyes and stuff like that, making them darker, but sometimes they kind of shine as well.
Yeah, they have that weird thing that reminded me of like vampire movies almost.
Yeah, there's this particular scene when she comes to his door later.
Yeah.
A few scenes after this one, when it's like her eyes are literally like as if you're looking like a star that's in the night sky, like one star that sticks out. It's like that one little like diamond in her eyes that's coming through in this kind of odd kind of way, like it's sticking out, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's interesting the way it is shot so much that you get so many shots of her, like basically where her face is completely obscured by things. Yeah,
and I liked a lot of those moments. But yeah, again, there sometimes, especially like later on in the film, there were moments where it felt a little bit like it did lean into the dark comedy of it.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if it's just me having a bit of an odd sense of humour, you know. But some of them were a bit like, this is funny, and I feel like I should be laughing, but nobody else in the cinema's doing it. And are we all feeling like this?
I mean, some of the ones that I liked. Or like just like about the whole, her being very still, or her being kind of in the shadows, or kind of obscured in some ways. The ones that I was lesser was that every once in a while, like the ones that I thought was more comedic, and I was like, I'm not sure about this part, is the parts when her body kind of weirdly like goes into odd movements, as if she's trying to do like the robot, or she's trying to like she's trying to do like the electric slide, or so, you know what I mean? Like she's moving around, and I never really got the reasoning for those ones, to be honest. So it's kind of there like, what? I don't know what is kind of going on in those scenes. I don't know. Those were the ones that more like, again, like I don't know whether they were meant to be played to be like almost whether he was trying to comedically play on some of these that have played in a lot of. I'd say a lot of recent kind of supernatural possession-y kind of films have had this similar kind of odd movement kind of like things that play into it, and dating back to a lot of supernatural films. But I kind of felt like some of them at times just didn't feel like they matched with the tone of the rest of the film.
I don't know. I mean, my understanding of it was that it's to show that it's not really her, that she's not in control of herself, and also I just thought it was weird and quite funny, you know. I don't know, I found that it took me a while to click into it, because I thought it was going to be a lot more straight-laced and serious than it was. We mentioned Smile in our other one, in our spoiler-free episode, and I feel like that is quite a fair comparison, because it does fit into a lot of similar stuff of like slow menacing stares with zoom-ins and increasing swelling music, and I had my idea that this would be in a similar vein, where it's going to be a lot more kind of serious, and it's going to be a lot more straight-laced. But I feel like there was a lot more comedy than I expected in this, and not in terms of like laugh out loud stuff, but there were moments where I was watching it and I was thinking, if this wasn't so drab, because it's shot with kind of very muted colours. There is a lot of kind of darkness and a lot of that sort of stuff in it. And I just thought, like, if it was lighter and like the soundtrack wasn't quite so intense, it would be a lot more like comic. Like there's like, for instance, the bit that I thought was some hilarious parts that I found, well, where she taped up the door, you know, and music is really swelling, and I was thinking like, this could be something out of like The Cable Guy, you know, like this really obsessive person. The bit where she's just waiting by the door and she starts pissing herself. I don't know whether it's because of Scary Movie 2, like people pissing themselves now is just like a funny thing. The bit with the cat in the lunch, like it's grim and it's gross, but it's also quite
darkly
funny,
comic.
darkly
Yeah,
comic.
yeah.
And there were those moments where I was like, that's like so over the top that I can't help but think like
it does have that, like, you
yeah,
know, including the major death that happens later is like literally like so done to such a level of being over the top that you're like, okay, like this is almost silly, like you've done it, like, but it's trying to play on that kind of little moments of those in quite a lot of the different scenes. I think you're right on those kind of parts. It's definitely trying to play. I think it's trying to push things up to a level that it's not. But it's weird because I find it's both. I'm saying it's over the top, and yet I feel like a lot of other horror films have done it to a level where it feels like it gets silly. Yeah. Whereas this doesn't feel like it goes to the point of. It doesn't let it go on for long enough that it feels like it becomes redundant. It just does it for like just a short enough amount of time, or just hangs on to something that you're like that. Like for instance, that taping up of the door scene, like you said, like that literally straight away reminded me of like what was it? I think we should leave, or I think you should leave. The comedy show.
Yeah.
I think the whole like when he's trying to pretend that he's not. The door goes both ways, so he's pulling it, and you've got that slow motion thing, and you've got that in this scene where he's pulling it, and she's like, no, he's like, no, it's fine, I can get out the door, and he's just like strengthening out that door. You've got a similar kind of comedic vibe going on there of that. And it is, I think, a little bit of that when we're thinking of humour. It's almost done into that very modern kind of, this is so awkward, this is almost funny. Like when we have the whole, at the party, the awkwardness of the thing, when we have the scene like, kiss the person to the left, and she stands up with the most weird kind of, that's such a stupid grin on your face, like sad face, sorry, it's almost like an emoji level of like odd, like that she's moved her face into that position. I was quite impressed at how much that looked like it shouldn't even be human kind of thing. But then the whole like literally pulling the girl away and go and sit next to her, it was both awkward but both like it was unsettling and awkward, and it was a good jumble of feelings that you had here. And I think that mixture of feelings, the film is tense. I think because you constantly are waiting, they definitely play on the idea that I think you're waiting for her to snap. And you're waiting for her to do something. So you're constantly, every time she's around, you're like, what's she going to do next? Or when are we going to get? And I think there's also a little bit of a play on that kind of, the audience is always expecting something to happen with a horror film like this. Yeah. So they're always expecting that moment to come. So every time he's around her, he's always like, when's she going to do something really fucked up? And that can come from either her just suddenly shouting out loud, or going on to the net, going on to the, actually she does actually something physical that you're like, oh fuck. Yeah.
I also feel like there's a going back to the bit with the chair scene, for instance, where they're at the party, and it goes back to the predictability point I was mentioning, where I knew that the next block that he pulled was going to be kiss the person on your left, but you know it's coming, but you kind of want to see it play out. Yeah, I feel like it's a predictable film, but you're interested in seeing how they do it. Yeah. So it does go in its strength. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to happen, now this is going to happen, and it's slightly eye-rolly. No. It was very much as if these are the tropes and you're playing into them, Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. It's always hard when you think about these things, because you can read into it and be like, well, he was playing on the predictability, or was it a it's kind of hard to know from that without having like a clearer perspective of what his thought process was here. But it feels like there were so many of these kind of scenes like this, and like the death later on that I mentioned in our spoiler-free one is like a tease of like that one, that there's so many scenes where you're like, well, I know exactly where it's coming or what's going to happen here, or I know what the next move is going to be, but is it actually going to play out that way? Yeah. And it's definitely it's an interesting way that it's just questionable in my head whether was that his intention? to play on predictability.
Yeah.
And you can like I want to say yes. I also don't want to act as if like it's some like greater than it should be kind of thing, or whether it is just like a new director kind of finding his toes and using some of the horror kind of tropes and things like that to work on it. But he does play, to be fair, in several scenes a very similar kind of shots that almost like one scene nothing happens, and in the next scene you've got that standing shot when actually something does happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he does work well, like the one scene, like the scene when he wakes up in bed and she's not there, and then there's just a still shot of the room, and it's not until she talks that I think probably half the people, because I saw literal people in the film, oh shit,
yeah,
where she literally stood in the shot the entire time, but you don't see her because she's just drenched in darkness. So she's like in the corner, but you don't see her. You know, like we had a friend once who stood in the corner of a room and someone did that.
Yes. That was an interesting time.
The basic concept was we believe two people were having sex in a room. Turns out someone was stood in the corner of the room.
Well, no, not we believe.
We don't know.
No, it was confirmed that two people were having sex in the room and another person was stood in the corner drenched in darkness.
Whether that was because it was so awkward they didn't want to say anything or because they are just a complete perv, I don't know, but it seems to match with the tone of this film and someone who's oddly like sad sack and pervy at the same time.
Yeah, it works well. I feel like the performances were also pretty great across the board.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think I think Bear, the main one, is almost the hardest. I think Michael Johnson, I think it was the actor, who I kept thinking he looks so much like he looks so much like Corey Cunningham, is what I'm saying, from Halloween Ends.
Okay.
Well, I can't remember what his the actor's name is off the top of my head, which I thought was also his name. Actual name was actually Corey as well. But like I was like looking at his face, I was like, you look so much like the sack, because he's such a sad sacky character in that film, and he is in this film. Like the look of the both of them. His at the time, I think, is the hardest to come around with because you have to feel so many reactions with how he's acting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the scenes early in the film, like when he comes home and the cat's dead and stuff like that, and he's crying, and then I was like, there was a part of me that's like, I'm not fully sure I fully believe you're acting right now. I feel it's a bit stunted, but it got more as we went through the film. It felt more like, okay, I can kind of see more what the actor's doing with this kind of, to kind of layer it a little bit more. But to begin with, like we said, like to start with, I think you've got to give it a little bit of time with some of these characters.
Yeah.
Because at first they'll come across a little bit as again, very one-dimensional, and then it builds quite quickly, to be fair, but
yeah, it does.
To kind of giving them a little bit more to go. But his is the hardest because obviously he's got to play both the fact that he's almost going to be like he's like the sad character that technically, I guess, in some ways you're going to feel sorry for, and then very quickly you're like, but also is he the monster?
A little, yeah. You're kind of
like thinking, really, he's the bad guy here. Like, yeah, he is the bad guy.
You think
he didn't mean for it to happen, but he doesn't react to it very quickly or try to do anything about it for a long time.
Yeah, not until it starts to get a bit too much.
Yeah, you know, until it goes crazy, he's willing to go along with all of it for, I don't know, we get kind of a montage.
Yeah.
Of like them being together, and he's happy to do all of this stuff with her, even though like pretty much in the very first scene when she turns and he takes her home, she's already acting so unpredictably crazy that he thinks about straight away. His mind goes to the one witch willow, and then quickly just kind of goes nah kind of thing, which is like, in one way you're like, okay, I mean it's unbelievable. Yeah. So you're pushing that off in your brain, and he's just thinking, nah, she's just into me. But very quickly, it seems there's still enough weird stuff that happens early on before the montage, which seems overly too nice at times, that you're like, yeah. I feel like he's purposely, and he's purposely just pushing that off in his brain to be like, no, I'm going to live in denial.
But he does have a vulnerability about him.
Yeah.
Like you get the point that he's very much aware that he's bitten off more than he can chew. He's done something horrible, but there's a part of him that hopes that it's real.
Yeah.
But you know that he just doesn't believe it. He knows that it's not real at all, and it is this
Yeah.
And then he gets confirmation later, which I thought was a really good scene, where she's like in bed and she's asleep, and she's like the actual Nikki's coming through and saying,
the voice comes out,
kill me,
Her body's not moving like at all. The voice is coming from like nowhere because her lips aren't moving or anything like that. But it's like seeping.
It's
out
like ventriloquism almost.
And obviously you get the scene, which I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty certain it's actually Curry Barker, the director, is the person on the phone in the car.
I assume so.
I believe. I think I recognise the voice from some of his sketches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From those kind of parts in the car, but that's the scene when you get like the confirmation for him that she is possessed. You get the kind of darkness again. It's kind of darkly comedic in ways that they're kind of fucking with him on the phone. And it seems so like dour that they're just like, it just sounds like you're phoning the phone line for someone like as if you're calling Domino's at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
They can't be fun, it's that kind of like energy. Like they're like, what the fuck do you want?
What do you want, mate?
And basically gets confirmation because they even fuck with him to say like, if you want to cancel. He's like, no, I just want to change it. And it's like, nah. And what if I just cancel? No. We don't do that either.
Yeah.
Basically, kill yourself.
Yeah.
Kill yourself, and that's the way that will break the way. He gets that confirmation, but then obviously you get the really. It's the part when he kind of does become a bit more like the one when you get that really fucked up that he's had that confirmation, which is then followed by the sex scene of her being there and basically being lifeless while he's having sex.
Well, he's just going to town.
But that's just after he's basically had confirmation that she is not only that, but he also gets her screaming in the phone. She's fucking basically like as if she's trapped in hell.
Yeah.
And he's just like there. He's like, okay, but he's still like, I gotta get my nut off.
I gotta get my nut off.
It's like that, and it's like fucking like that was the darkest transition going from this oddly comedic-ish scene, which has these really dark undertones, to then that scene where she is just like making noise. She's making noises, but she's just like completely like dead-eyed.
Yeah,
like nothing is actually happening, kind of thing. And it's that really fucked up. But that's the point when he kind of becomes this point of like, well, technically now you're the monster of the film.
Yeah.
Because you could stop the, I'm not saying you need to pull a gun and kill yourself.
But
you
don't
could
get
embrace it. Yeah. Like, you could do something. One thing as we were talking about the predictability is though, very early on, like literally like as soon as this came into your head early on, but it takes a long time before it goes back to that point is like literally, I mean, come on. Surely everyone's first thought was go and get another One Wish Willow. And have someone like undo the. It did pop in like, and I understand the concept of the films and stuff like that, but that was one thing I felt was very like, which took literally until it was far beyond the point. But I thought he could have stopped this way earlier. But that's part of the, and I mean this more in terms of him being the monster of the film because it's such a predictable point that you almost feel like it must have come into his head earlier. But he doesn't want to embrace it.
Well, that's the thing, though. I feel like once you're on the phone and he says, is there any way I can cancel it? And they're like, no. He's like, I want to alter it. Well, we can't alter it. Can I cancel it? Well, you can't cancel it. Yeah. I feel like another thing you would have said is like, can I use another one? Can somebody else use another one? So, I feel like that was it.
But it's the character because he is from the very first scene. What we get is
passivity.
He's completely passive, and generally, as we get by the end of almost by the end of the film, which again by the end I was wondering if it was going to go not even go with the way it seemed it was going to go because you think this guy's just a wimp almost. He's not willing to sacrifice for anything because he couldn't even get the courage up to say anything to her and things like that. Generally is acted in ways that as if he's being so passive away from it. Even now he's not embracing it, that he's not trying to really do much to help her, and if anything he just keeps making it worse for her generally by doing nothing. So he's so passive the whole time that when it gets later to the film and it's the idea of they said you could kill yourself, it's like, is he actually going to ever do this? Would he do this kind of thing? And that's kind of why, again, you're like, anything that you think he could do is almost like, you're almost wondering, is he just avoiding all of these obvious things he should do because he's like, well, what if it leads to me having to die, and I don't want to die, so I'm just going to keep getting off.
Or what if it leads to her not loving me?
Yeah,
you know, like
and again, it's everything
I can't
that he
get
wanted,
my nut off.
even though from very early on, another girl wants him, and actually is interested in him, and not like, you know, and it's the idea of the, you know, the classic tale of chasing the girl that's not actually the girl that actually wants you, you know, it's not that girl, like
classic tale.
It's not that, it's what happens kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's chasing after the wrong person kind of thing the whole time when someone's right in front of you, you know, that part of it, which is sad because I said earlier that every character has a slightly kind of, you know, something a little bit off of it, you know, something that kind of made, like, his best friends, you know, obviously he's been with Nikki, and he's been pushing him to go with it. He's been piping Nikki in the background, things like that, and generally, like, he's also a little bit self-involved, his friends.
Yeah,
you know, he's a little bit too, like, into himself, that he kind of pushes her. He tells him to do stuff, but gives him, like, from the very opening scene, like, he gives him fucking terrible advice.
Yeah.
Like, basically being that kind of toxic trait of, like, I'm going to be a dick to you, and that'll make you like me.
That'll make him like you.
That'll make you like you. Or acting like a literal, like, child. Which, again, is quite I think is a theme in here, because it has a lot of kind of using those childlike tendencies, especially with Nikki. Like, through the thing. She shows off a lot of childlike tantrums and stuff like that coming through. Of that kind of, like, not. And he himself, Bear, is, again, so passive. He's almost like a child at times.
Yeah.
Like that. There's a lot of that weird, like, any childhood tendencies kind of coming through in those scenes. But the one character who actually is not a dick, and actually mainly is only doing things that is actually might help, apart from the fact that she, you know, maybe has an intention of that, in a way she slightly wants to be, I think, with Bear.
Yeah.
Is Sarah.
Yeah.
And sadly, she's the one that gets the fucking worst shit happen to her.
Yeah, fucking brutal.
She gets fucking brutalised when really all she's trying to do is look out for Bear and kind of at the same time look out for Nikki.
Yeah.
And generally, you know, trying to be, you know, nice, and she's the one you get the most sense of. You get the kind of, like, to feel like, obviously, you feel truly sorry for Nikki.
Yeah.
Because Nikki is, you know, going for this. But it feels like out of everyone, it's the women that get the worst done to. And the men get away with, like, they get death. But they get the easiest deaths.
Yeah, 100%.
Whereas the women get the worst of the shit. Like, well, I mean, Nikki's obviously literally living in a purgatory of hell.
God, yeah,
or whatever it is that she's living in. She's getting raped.
Yeah.
She just is.
No way about it, is there?
You know what I mean? She's getting violently, like, fucked up all the time by herself.
Self-mutilating.
Self-mutilating, shitting herself, pissing herself.
Vomiting over herself.
Being trapped, like, literally being trapped in, possibly inside your own body, while also being in this state.
Cooking cats.
You know, all of that, like, horribleness. And then we get Sarah, who is, you get the whole, like, she's waiting for her a college application to come through, and she's getting rejected, and her dad, little cameo from Andy Richter, if anyone knows that American comedian, and she's waiting for that. They all work at her dad's music store, linked together, but generally in most of the scenes, she's either just trying to give help to him, or kind of getting close to him, and then we get the scene. I mean, I found the setup for the scene, like, very. They do sell it as, like, this is something we do all the time when he gets in the car. But up until that point, I thought this is such a weirdly out of, like, with everything that's happened on. This is the annoyingness of his passive nature, or the way he doesn't react to anything, or doesn't seem to think anything through. Almost gets to the point where Bear becomes an almost annoying character, because this scene straight away, predictably, you can see exactly where this is going, in the setup of it being, like, at night. But it's like, who the fuck is answering their phone at 2:30 in the morning in bed with that, and not thinking about the fact that, one, she's going to notice because she's constantly been aware of you non-stop all of the time.
And I think she gives that, just before this scene, she gives that speech about, like, how cold it is when he isn't there, when her body feels like it's filled with sand, and it spreads through her, and it's just dark when he's not around. And there's a scene earlier where he tries to get out of bed and she snaps at him.
Yeah.
You know, and you're thinking, like, oh, yeah, I'll just go meet my mate. 2:30 in the morning in a car park.
I was going to be here in a minute. I mean, this is the thing with the predictability of like, you know exactly where this is going. You're like, there's no way she's not appearing at this point of the thing. But it's also not. Yeah, it's weird because it's also not. There are plenty of films when I've been annoyed by the predictability, and weirdly with this one I wasn't.
Well, I was kind of I knew it was coming, but I was interested to see how it was done.
Going to play out.
You know, I wanted to see how it was done, and yet again, I assumed it was going to be kind of her coming through the windshield because.
I was waiting the whole because that's how it's shot.
That's how it's shot.
With the image, like you can see like almost something in the distance because they've done it again. That exact shot is shown several times. Where he sat in the car and it's his house behind.
Yeah.
Where you can see the background and you see things like that. Because again, if you're looking in the background, there are certain times when you can see something moving or like Nikki as if she was stood there when he's waiting outside that. When he's on the phone for that One Wish Willow, there's a something that happens where you see. I think it was the window or something like that where you can almost see a figure stood there.
Yeah.
At one point, because I was like, you're showing a shot on this side, and he plays that same shot multiple times to the point when it's this one. But unlike every other time, you can see outside. This time it was all hazed over. So you couldn't clearly see outside. I was like, this is obviously the one time when that glass is breaking in.
It's the Friday the 13th, you know, Jason bursting out of the water.
Kind of coming through.
Always centre screen what's going to happen.
But there is something in the sudden, you know, obviously we've got this scene between them and we also get the first thing of Bear almost truly understanding that Sarah likes him and she likes him. Just as he kind of clicks in his brain that, wait, maybe you're the one I should, you know...
Maybe I should be with you.
The second that kind of happens. But I think it's more the thing that kind of caused more of a, I think even for me, of like a visceral kind of, oh shit, kind of reaction was the fact that it just happened so quickly. And it goes straight to a violent nature, almost quicker than your brain could, quicker than my brain could comprehend exactly what was happening to her.
Exactly.
Her face was already half caved in by the time I was like, fuck it out. I think that was what was actually very masterfully done here by him. Was the window smashes, but there's no like further. You don't even see by the time her hand is already grabbed and smashed her face in, and you're about halfway, probably on about the fifth hit against the front of the car, the wheel. By the time you're like, fucking hell, like her face is gone.
It's the lack of reaction, you know, that because you would expect Sarah to scream or to fight or to do some reaction. So you're almost waiting for it to kind of like ramp up and to escalate.
Well, I can't remember exactly, but I believe this scene is silent as well. There's no musical score build.
It's just bang, bang,
so
bang.
it is just the noise and the thing like that, I think creates a real visceral, like, of that, like, fucking hell.
It's
like,
brutal.
Of that. And the fact you can hear everything going on and the fact you're just seeing it. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. So you just hear the smash, but then you hear the bang, 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 bang. And it's the fact that it's so emotional. You've got Nikki, whose hair is literally all over her face. So you can't, again, she's obscured. Her face is obscured again. Which constantly gives that idea almost as if either she or a part of her is trying to hide herself. Almost as if don't truly look at me or else you'll see that I'm not who I am kind of thing. But yeah, fucking hell. It's so brutalized, and I think you went in right at the end of it. I think you went to the toilet.
I really needed a piss just
the
before
shot because it gives you a shot. You see him obviously screaming, like fuck it, like Jesus Christ, like not screaming, like he is blank. I mean, but then you get Nikki who comes round and says like it's okay, you know, things like that. You're the one that made me do this. You're the one that made this wish, but now you're going to have to help me get rid of the body.
I came in then, because I needed a piss. As he got that text on the phone. And then I was like, I don't want to miss Sarah's death, so I'm staying and I'm watching. And then as soon as she was dead, I was like, I gotta go. Yeah.
But then it lingered back onto a shot of literally just what was left of her face, where one eye, they had like one eyeball, and literally just the smashed in face and like the ridge of the nose that was the bone that was left. Kind of
it reminded me of like in Beetlejuice when he goes to hell, where he goes to wherever it is. And you see the people with the shrunken heads. Yeah. It was like that. It was just like a pulp.
Yeah, it was.
You know, with hair on it.
But it's so horribly brutalized for a character that is like... And again, the odd passiveness of his nature, of what follows after that is her being like, you're going to have to help me get rid of the body. And then it plays out in this oddly, darkly comic way of him literally then just carrying her body into the back of a car.
Yeah.
And then going that, and then him sat like in silence, as in the background you can hear what sounds like cutting and sawing, which is, you know, again, Nikki cutting and sawing her up and be like, she's ready. Like, that all plays out until it kind of leads to a point when one Nikki says, I can sort the rest by myself, kind of thing. He's just kind of sat there in his car with the letter. Yeah. You get a moment of, okay, the obvious, she was accepted to go, you know,
of course.
To get an emotional moment out of that. But it was just so brutal. But it was like, I think it was the fact that I think you'd waited majority of the entire film now for what I think you were waiting for, some violent, nasty kind of death. Yeah. And again, the film doesn't actually have that many in it. It doesn't actually have much death in it, really, generally. So I think you're almost expecting more, like that party scene with her in the trailer, for instance. That's the one scene, like when you see her covered in the blood, which it turns out was when she's stabbed herself. Yeah, you know, with the broken bottle. But that scene was played in the trailer to make it seem as if she does something at that party. So again, a little bit of an expectation of, oh, she's gonna fucking like crack someone's head in a pie. But again, doesn't logistically make sense, because it's like, well, she's off to prison.
Take off prison. Cart her away, fellas.
Yeah. But then this is also when we get a little bit more of a kind of, you know, when he goes, you know, back to the house. Obviously, he tries to get his mate to understand that he needs to make. We finally go back to the One Wish Willow. Yeah. So he tries to get his friend to understand, like, kind of thing, and his friend's not really buying any of that, and he thinks he's talking bollocks and stuff like that, and he thinks he's just gone as mad as Nikki is, because everyone just thinks Nikki's gone fucking right, or she's on drugs, or she's, you know, fucked up, or something like that. Something's going on, or she's just lying. But he finally, you know, you have that whole scene kind of play out, like, you've got to understand this concept, and it's like, well, it's a ridiculous idea to believe, kind of thing. Yeah. And then again, you get the odd comicness of him going like, $1 billion, and literally it's spread down, and you're like, fucking hell. Just out, like, in the middle of everything that's just kind of gone down, in the middle of this, it's this weirdly scene of, like, in one way you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And then it's also kind of like an odd comedic moment of just like, fucking hell, it's just raining money, and it's still going. It's still going, it's still going, it's still going. And then one thing you do, like, nice bits with Nikki, is you get things like obviously you get the cat earlier on when she makes the little, like, the cat's been dead, but she makes the whole, like, tribute to things. Yeah. Which is an odd one, because with Nikki, like, other people hear about the cat being dead, but as soon as she's, like, taken over, she almost knows things about him that you don't think she should know, kind of thing. She's dwelling on the death of the cat, or she's dwelling on the death kind of parts of it, like things to get emotional, like, manipulation is what she's kind of using, kind of in that way. But obviously we've got the odd ones like the cat sandwich, which is funny. Yeah, it's just so funny. It's just like that kind of part of, like, really, like, fucking with, like, oh my god, what the hell. But in this final kind of scene, when we get back to the house, this is, like we said, like I said in the spoiler free, this was the one scene that I felt like I could really feel that Texas Chainsaw kind of thing. Yeah, we come into a house which now looks kind of fucked from days of piss and shit. And, you know what I mean? And literally like that. She's obviously more and more worn away, but we come into the body of Sarah, like, literally fully nude, with the face fully skull in, which feels like a little bit like, I guess the most of that is be something like recent thing is in my head is like Terrifier or something like that, of that kind of, like, over the top. But luckily it's not done in an overly, like, we haven't fully seen all of that play out. Yeah, it's the fact you come into a room and it's kind of shocking to see her just splayed out like that, when you thought she was being chopped up, or like that's the way it made you believe that she'd been removed in a different way, but no. But the other thing you played in your head the whole time is like, how is anyone getting away with any of this shit now? Because, like, you're already like, someone's gonna get arrested for Sarah's death. Well, that's you're gonna get like that. There's no good coming out of any of this.
You stuff. Know it's going towards a bleak ending. Yeah, it feels so desperate by the time you get to this, and then.
I thought we were actually. Her face is obviously Sarah's face is gone. Yeah. But I couldn't tell, because, like, when she was first, like, hidden in the shadows, like, it looked like she'd almost taken her scalp or her hair she's drawn tattoos to match, like she's trying to look like Sarah for him, to be like, I am Sarah kind of thing. You're almost like step 2. If she hadn't had her face demolished, she'd be wearing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you've got kind of that moment of craziness, and you fully see how like messed up Sarah's like face is, kind of thing, as she's coming out of the shadows. Which I did say earlier, the one thing that I thought was an odd plot hole was the not plot hole, but kind of an inconnected part was before the party when he comes home. Sarah is in a state of completely felt like her skin is like bubbling around her mouth.
I think
like,
it's just vomit, isn't it?
It looked like it looked like to me more like there was definitely skin damage like around her thing, and where she's literally been that. It could be like the vomit and stuff like that was down that had dried on her kind of mouth.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it just looked more like it was literally like it looked more like bubbling skin kind of thing on that. But just generally, like her appearance was like so fucked up. Like, and she looked like she was so worn out from literally standing there for hours, and then the next scene, you're like literally at a party after like a quick like change around. It's like look completely fine, like no effect on her at all. Kind of thing, of all of the crying, shitting, like basically drooling and everything, because she's completely lost all control of her body when he walks out the door.
Well, maybe because he's back with her. You know,
when he's back with her. And that's the thing. Like, if you look in some of that too much. Like, it's very, like, odd, like, how, like, in some scenes she's perfectly fine without him, and then in another scene she's completely lost her.
Of course.
But it's that you can play it into the whole, like, the back and forth of, like, the way that the possession seems to be going through her in different ways. But, yeah, this final scene, like we said before about, like, who gets the... It's like, Sarah gets a fucking horrible death.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, this is the point when he realises, like, fuck, right, Sarah's dead now, things like that. Like, he's coming back... And she's obviously in a state of like fully kind of deranged, kind of I am going to pretend to be Sarah to be with you, and he's like, I need to get away from you. His mate pops through the door, and she just blasts him. He just gets a shot. I don't know exactly where it hit him, but it just doesn't go down. I'm assuming head because he's just down like that. But again, he gets it quick. He's gone. Yeah, like he doesn't get a fucking his face smashed in, or he doesn't get he's just dead quick. Kind of thing. And then obviously he's ready to kill it. Like he's like ready. The only way to do it. The only thing I thought was, and I get the whole playing out of this, but I really liked the shot when they were on the sofa together.
Yes. And
I thought he was just going to pick up the gun and just... And I thought that would have made a pretty amazing final shot of him there and then her kind of coming back into... Which does technically happen. Yeah. But I really like the idea of him being there. But... I understand why not, because again, we're trying to show that he is, he's an absolute like passive whip. Like, and I know that's weird to say about killing yourself, but what I mean is like he knows that by killing himself, he'd be releasing someone else, but he doesn't feel like the person who's at all going to do that. You know, he can't shoot himself, things like that. You see him thinking about it, things like that. He goes to take the pills and stuff like that, and at one point you think, he literally goes to put his fingers down.
I thought that was great.
And it almost gets to the point when it makes you think that he's just not going to go through with it at all, and he's just going to somehow think he can kind of go. But when you really think about it, again, being the wimp that he is, he also knows he's in a situation where no one's getting out of this, like...
So desperate.
Even they know that, like, fucking hell, like, we're going to prison if this doesn't happen anyway. Like, I'm going to be arrested. We're going to be arrested for this anyway. So him killing himself is not actually... It's still the wimp's way out. Because he's getting away with that. But he's also not helping her at all.
Of course.
Because he could do things that could be like, right, I'm going to get you away from here because I can help you. But instead, no. He kills himself, leaves her in an apartment full of dead bodies. Where her DNA is all over those dead bodies. Yeah. Her trigger finger, her thing, all of those things all lead to her. So basically he's left her in a multiple homicide. Where she's got,
the way it goes.
Some kind of thing. But, so it's that dark ending. We end with her like screaming on the sofa with his dead body in her arms and it's great. The second she's like, what if you like? She's crying over his dead body, and then she just switches back, and her whole brain just fucking explodes from like, what the fuck is happening here?
Well, I love that she did the wish on him, and then he came out, and then and then he died.
Yeah.
And then she's free, and it's like, fuck, where am I? I thought it was a great ending.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it was bleak, but there was a certain kind of like a certain humour in there as well.
Yeah.
That it's just desperate, and she's fucked.
Yeah.
And most likely probably doesn't realise what's happened.
She'll, to be fair, at the same time, she'll be too mentally fucking fucked up from this anyway to probably
most likely
to even be able to understand. Like,
yeah.
I feel like at that point your brain would just like turn to mush and just be like, "Fuck, I don't know."
Shit yourself.
I don't know.
At that point,
if she doesn't,
get it gone.
I mean, she was still screaming when we left the cinema. Maybe we should have hung around for the credits a bit longer because we might have just heard a bang.
Maybe. Maybe.
You know, because there's not much way to get out of that situation, kind of thing. She's going to go. All you can think of is prison. This is what's going to happen to her for what she's done to Sarah and things like. Even though she didn't do it,
you can blame it on Bear, maybe.
Just blame it all on him.
Yeah, that's what I'd do.
Yeah,
that's what I'd do, mate. But yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
overall, I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I went in with. I don't want to say no expectations, but I went in having only watched the trailer that was in the cinema when we saw it, so having little knowledge of what film what I was in for, not expecting it to be awful, not quite buying into the hype, because I generally try to avoid that, and thinking that it was a great film. It was one I'd definitely watch again.
I think it was well done. I think it's definitely interesting that he's able to take a concept which I think could have easily been quite hard to stretch out, and he has found ways to make it interesting. I think the way that he plays with the dynamics of the character, and also the way it kind of messes with the kind of possessed part. I mean, I think the performance of Nikki is excellent. Yeah. I think there are certain scenes. There's a scene like at the party when she does the whole telling her story out loud. Yeah. Which also is an excellently written kind of scene, because it has basically the whole poem is basically about rape of her by him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's the story she's writing right now, that is basically her inner self coming out to write about how she's being basically. It just talks about how you're going between my fire and that monster will do this again tonight in that meeting. Yeah. Like, you know, it's got all of that. But the way that she does that, and again, she shows how just in that one scene alone shows that she's got range, because she literally flips between voices, acting, all in one scene, and then she between facially. So the performance, especially from her, is excellent. I generally really enjoyed it. I wasn't that sure at the beginning of the film I was going to fully enjoy it. It definitely needs a little bit of time to warm up. But you know, I think it's good to look out for the future. I think this is a solid kind of directorial debut for a horror film. I believe he's got one other film before he gets to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a ghost-based film that he's doing, but I think it sounds a little bit more like it might lean horror, but a bit more comedy, straightforward comedy maybe. I don't know. So we'll see about those, which I think is better though, because the thing I worry about with new directors is nowadays so many studios jump on a hype wagon of the director, and they'll make something very their own. And then a studio will be like, oh, that'd be really good to do this franchise or this one, so they'll throw them like a sequel to something or a thing like that. And I always think for a lot of new directors, I think it's a mistake to jump straight into doing the studio stuff. Oh yeah, of course. Without trying to do a bit more and establish yourself, because the problem is all it takes in Hollywood is to be like, you did a really good independent debut, that was fantastic. The sequel failed at the box office and people didn't really like it that much. You're fucked. You're out. You're out. You know what I mean? Like, it's so quick. I always think do your own. Like, even with other ones, like when they did well, like recent ones, I feel like a lot of them now have done like, I'm going to do several of my own, or maybe I'll produce other ones, but I'll do my own stuff. For my, like Jordan Peele mainly has stuck to his own stuff only and producing things that may be remakes or things like that. But he's not making them himself, and that's the same with like Zach Kreger and things like that. Like mainly like sticking with it before he tries to do something that might be more IP. It's like, I've done 2 solid kind of my own things. Now I can kind of show off. Yeah. So at least I'm glad that he's trying to do another one. Hopefully, you know, Hopefully the next one's not terrible though, because otherwise I might be like, yeah, no, you're not doing Texas Chainsaw.
Maybe they are
they're like, this was good. No, that was shit. You're not doing Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
We'll get someone else to do that.
We'll get the next hot shot. They are fickle, aren't
Go
they?
get Paul Thomas Anderson or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
It's not Paul. That's the actual good director.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Well, that's the one. Paul Thomas Anderson he'd probably make a great Texas Chainsaw Massacre film.
They both do it.
Yeah, the other one, they'll both do it and we'll decide which one's better.
No, they both do it together. But one gets to do one scene and then the other does the other, and they just put them together. You know?
Isn't that just like one scene with like Joaquin Phoenix doing a really somber performance, and the next scene with Mila Djokovic jumping over a tank?
Yeah, basically.
It's basically that's like blending Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw again with the next generation man of the robotic leg. That's those two Texas.
That's
Chainsaws
basically
together.
what we're getting.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get with that.
Yeah. Well, that has been our review of Obsession, our spoiler-filled discussion. Come and let us know your thoughts on it. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. Be sure to keep it spoiler-free, though. The film has just come out. As always, hit that subscribe button. Leave us a lovely review. Play us out, fellas.